going to take you back in time to when I was 11 years old, and I had a recurring dream that I was the commander of the first human colony on Mars. Now, that's a crazy dream for an 11-year-old to have, but I guess it kind of made sense, because I was born in Argentina, moved to the United States when I was 6 years old, and by the time I was 11 years old, I had spent 5 years learning English by watching American television. And I was fascinated by Star Trek. I was fascinated by the idea of exploring strange new worlds, of seeking out new life forms, and of boldly going where no one had gone before. I was inspired by Captain Kirk. Now, even at 11 years old, I realized that this was science fiction. So I was also inspired by real-life Jacques Cousteau. He had built these incredible machines to take him and his team where no one had gone before, to seek out new life forms and to explore strange new worlds. So what happened to that childhood dream? Well, as most childhood dreams, they ran right smack into reality. When I was 19 years old, my eyesight went bad, which instantly dashed any aspirations I had of becoming an astronaut for NASA. Instead of going to university to study science and engineering, I went and studied economics, and then law school, and then I served in the military for 4 years. But then my life took an interesting turn, where I co-founded a technology company in Silicon Valley. This was a speech recognition technology company. You can kind of see it as a precursor to Siri. And we sold the company in 2001. That led to two things for me. One is, it made me realize that I really, really liked startups. I liked the creative aspect of starting new businesses. And it launched me on a 25-year career where I've helped launch over a dozen for-profit ventures and nonprofit organizations. More importantly, it also reconnected me with my childhood passion for space. I started a group called Space Angels Network, which connected accredited individual investors with early-stage space companies. Through that effort, I met an aerospace engineer who was building underwater flying submersibles. This was my first direct exposure to ocean exploration, and it introduced me to the world of submersibles. More importantly, it introduced me to a man who ended up becoming my co-founder in a company called OceanGate, which designed, built, and operated deep diving submersibles. Now, sadly, you may have heard of OceanGate because 3 years ago, one of our submersibles imploded at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean near the wreck of the Titanic, instantly killing all 5 crew members inside, including my co-founder. I had left the company in 2013 as part of our succession plan and went back to working on my space interests. In 2020, I shifted my focus to the planet Venus. And we can talk later about why Venus, but I shifted my focus to Venus. And for the last 6 years, I've been fostering a small family of 2 nonprofits and 4 startup ventures, each of them placing little building blocks in a foundation that hopefully will lead someday to humanity establishing a permanent presence high in the atmosphere of Venus. Now, one thing that I've learned from all of this work over a 25-year entrepreneurial journey is that Richard Branson was right. As entrepreneurs, we get told all the time that we need to dream big, that we need to go change the world. One thing that I've found over 25 years is that most of us don't dream big enough. We need to dream big enough that people will call our ideas crazy. The reason that's important is because as founders, and specifically if you're a founder CEO, your primary role is to inspire people. You have to inspire people to come work for you on your ventures, even early stage when you may not be able to pay them. You have to inspire people to serve on your board of directors. You have to inspire people to invest in your companies. You have to inspire customers to trust you with their money. And it's a lot easier to inspire people when you have a very, very bold, audacious founding vision. Now, to give you an example of this, I'll give you an example from my world that maybe you might know, even if you don't follow space. Most of you probably know that Elon Musk founded SpaceX with this bold founding vision of colonizing Mars. He was very vocal about it. He was called crazy, and for many reasons he still is called crazy, but his founding vision was called crazy in large part because it was so bold and audacious. But with this crazy vision, he was able to inspire tens of thousands of people to come work with him at SpaceX. He was able to inspire investors to give him billions of dollars. He was able to inspire NASA to trust him with their projects. Now, if you bought into this vision of colonizing Mars and you went to work at SpaceX, the reality is that what you've been doing is launching satellites into space, which honestly is not that exciting and not that inspiring. Now, granted, you're not just launching satellites into orbit, you're launching more satellites than all of humans have ever launched in all of history. So that's pretty cool. And as you launch these rockets, you've also gotten good at landing the first stage boosters on platforms that are floating out in the middle of the ocean. And that's pretty cool. And every now and then you get to launch a really big rocket that's got 2 additional rockets strapped onto the side. And that's even cooler, I guess, especially when you land those twin boosters in what really looks like a choreographed ballet. And yes, most recently, over the last 5 years, you've gotten to develop the world's biggest rocket that's ever been built. This thing is 40 stories high, and it's a skyscraper that you're launching into orbit. And not only are you launching this thing into orbit, you've even gotten pretty good at landing that first stage booster. This is a 20-story skyscraper that's falling out of the sky at supersonic speeds, and it's getting caught on the ground by a 30-story tall structure with 2 mechanical arms. And now you've gotten to a point where if you look out maybe 5 years in the future, you can maybe see where you might be landing one of these spaceships on the lunar surface. Now, all of this is great, but it's not colonizing Mars, right? This is not Elon's founding vision. However, these are huge accomplishments, and they were only made possible by the fact that Elon started with such a bold, audacious, and crazy founding vision of colonizing Mars. Imagine if he had tried launching SpaceX with a founding vision of putting satellites in orbit. He wouldn't have inspired anyone to come work for him. He wouldn't have inspired anybody to invest in him, and he certainly wouldn't have inspired NASA to trust him with their projects. So it was really this large founding vision that made all of this possible. I'll give you an example from my own experience. In April of 2018, I was asked to be chairman of the board of directors of a company called Deep Space Industries. It had been founded in 2015, 3 years earlier, with this crazy, audacious goal of mining asteroids. We were going to send large spacecraft out to asteroids far away from Earth, mine them, and then bring the resources back to Earth. This is as far as we got. This is a water monopropellant microthruster that goes on small satellites. It's roughly about this size. That's as far as we got. So first of all, why are we building these things in the first place? Well, the founding team at DSI started with the end goal of having large spacecraft mining large asteroids and bringing the resources back, and they worked backwards from that. They looked at, well, before we do that, we're going to have to send small spacecraft and bring back samples. Before that, we're going to have to send small spacecraft out to rendezvous with these asteroids. Before that, we're going to have to send small spacecraft out to study these asteroids. And then we realized that those small spacecraft were going to need new propulsion systems. So we started with these water thrusters. The thing is that we started building these water thrusters, and we became so good at building them that satellite operators started asking if they could buy them for their own satellites. And we became so good at selling these that when I came on board, I was supposed to help the CEO raise our Series B so that we could build the spacecraft to go do the tech demos out to the asteroids. Instead, we ended up getting acquired by a big company that did propulsion systems for satellites, and they wanted these water thrusters in their product line. They knew that if we were successful in raising the Series B, we would be off to the asteroids and we would never be willing to sell them our water thrusters. So by the end of that year, by 8 months later, we had sold the company, which was a good outcome for the investors. It was a good outcome for the shareholders. It was a good outcome for the team, but it did not achieve the founding vision of mining asteroids. But the only reason we were able to do this and be successful is because we started with that founding vision. If the founders had started with, we want to build a water thruster company, they never would have been able to inspire anybody to come work for them, to invest in them, or to buy them. Now, I've been fortunate to work in oceans and space. These are two fields that lend themselves very nicely to bold, audacious, crazy founding visions. Right now, as we speak, spinning around the Earth above us about 400 kilometers up is the International Space Station, which is arguably humanity's greatest feat of engineering. And yet, the technology is obsolete. It is scheduled to be decommissioned in the next 5 years. However, it has inspired private companies to build the next generation of space stations. And these are scheduled to be launched within the next 5 years. And you can draw a straight line from the ISS through these private space stations to a not too distant future where we may have larger orbiting structures that actually rotate and create artificial gravity. We've already got teams led by the United States, China, and Russia that are taking steps to establish a human presence on the surface of the moon. And beyond that, maybe in the not too distant future after that, we may finally get around to Elon's vision for colonizing Mars. And who knows, we may even be able to establish a city in the clouds of Venus. The ocean world has a similar story. We've got underwater substations like this Aquarius reef base off the coast of Florida in the US, which have been around for a while, but they are scheduled to be decommissioned in the next decade, if not sooner. They have inspired private companies to develop next generation technology like this Vanguard system by a company called Deep Engineered. This one is going live this year. And like with space, you can draw a straight line from the Aquarius reef base through Vanguard and out to, again, a not too distant future where we may have research stations on the bottom of the ocean or even underwater cities. All of this brings us back to today. Because if there's one other thing that I've learned is that having a crazy founding vision without execution is just a dream. You have to be able to execute on the path to get you to that founding vision. And that's what today is all about. All of us are very fortunate that today we're going to have a lot of amazing people come up on stage. We've got a lot of amazing people that have helped to organize this event. We've got amazing people that have sponsored this event. And most importantly, we have over 2,000 people that are going to be participating in today's event. So, let's have a productive day today, and I'll see you out there. Thank you.